Okay, so we're going to do a review of the integumentary system so far. On this recording, I'm doing it with a class that didn't get the final two functions of the integumentary system. So if you're watching this video, the video before it has all 5 functions, but this class not get to it, so I'm not going to mention those yet because I don't want to spoil the surprise. But let's get to the rest of this material with the integumentary system. I'm going to try to get everybody in this classroom involved. Let's start with Lillian. Lillian, your skin is 3 big layers. Can you tell me what the first layer is? The epidermis is the first layer. What type of tissue makes the epidermis specifically, as specific as you can get? Stratified squamous epithelium. Okay. Everybody, there's 4 to 5 layers of the epidermis. I want you to know the bottommost layer, which is the basal layer, and I want you to know the topmost layer, which is the apical layer. Let's go on to Sloan. Sloan, what is the apical layer called? The epidermis. Apical means top. Stratum corneum. Sloan, what is unique about this layer? What makes it stand out from the rest? It's dead. Yeah, your top layer of skin is dead. And what is it coated in? So what do we call that where something has been covered in keratin? It's been keratinized. Okay, now here's something that you may not recall, but you should know. The cells that make up your most of your epidermis, but definitely your stratified squamous epithelium, are going to be squamous cells. Remember those flattened cells? When we did the epithelial tissue, you have squamous, you have cuboidal, you have columnar. These are squamous cells. Sloan, what is the bottom of your epidermis called? The stratum basal. Okay, the bottom layer is stratum basal. And this layer, what is unique about this bottom layer? It does, so I'm going to include that. It has basal cells. Oh, and mitotic. Basal cells and melanocytes. And it has a high mitotic rate, which means there's a lot of cell division happening. Let's go on to Jake. Or Jack, is it keratinized? Or sorry, not keratinized. Is it vascular? That's what I meant to ask. No. So what's the opposite of being vascular? It is avascular. Is it innervated or non-innervated? It is innervated. It definitely has nerves. Other than that, there's really no major structures found in your epidermis. Your skin color is in your epidermis. Last question. Anybody can answer this because this one's kind of a toughie. If you look at your epidermis, it looks like this. What's this wavy stuff called? Dermal Papillae. That's where the bottom of your epidermis meets the top of our next layer. What is the next layer called, Halen? The dermis. Good. Halen, what type of, as specific as you can get, what type of tissue makes up the dermis? Can you get more specific than dense connective tissue? What's that? Irregular. Good. It's made of irregular, dense connective tissue. Okay, here's a somewhat hard question. What cells make up dense or irregular dense connective tissue? Fibroblasts. Well done. Fibroblasts produce collagen. Collagen is the protein that's like the glue of your body. It really makes up scar tissue. Okay, very good. Let's go to Grace. Grace, is this tissue vascular or not? Yes. Okay. It is definitely innervated. They all are. Grace, what other structures or thingies can we find in your dermis besides blood vessels and nerves? Sweat glands, sebaceous glands. These are glands whose secretions are not in your blood. So what do we call these glands? These are called exocrine glands. Crine means to secrete. Exo means outside. When I say outside, I don't mean outside the body. I mean outside the blood. Okay. Can you tell me two other things that are found in your dermis? Hair. The base of nails. Okay. This is where you put the tattoo ink if you want to get one of those. And then last one, Scout, what's the third and bottommost layer? Hypodermis. What is another name for hypodermis? Subcutaneous. Thank you, Grace. Okay, let's go on to Eva. Eva, what tissue, as specific as you can get, makes up the hypodermis? It is connected proper, but you can get more specific than that. No, it's loose. There's no such thing as a regular loose connected tissue. On diagrams, it looks like it's yellow adipose tissue. Do you all remember what do you call fat cells? Adipocytes. Okay, great. It's definitely vascular. There's really no structures in here except for blood and nerves and fat. That's it for your skin layers. Just for fun, what type of tissue is below your fat? What kind? Right, skeletal muscle. And then what's below that? Bones and organs. Okay, good. Now, that is what we did last week. As far as last class, we started the 5 functions of your integumentary system, namely your skin. This class got to 3 of the functions. So let's go to Isabella. Can you tell me one of the 3 functions that we actually covered? Protection from what, Isabella? So what causes infections? What's that broad term? That everything that can infect you. What do you call an infectious agent? A pathogen. I think I'm gonna have all of you tell me that word as you walk into class tomorrow. It's been a brain fart with a lot of people today. What are 4 things that are considered pathogens? Can you guys just reel them off? Tell me one. Bacteria. What else? Dirt's not a pathogen. Viruses. 2 down, 2 to go. Fungi. 1 more. Rhymes with schmerismite. Parasite. This includes things like ticks, worms, mosquitoes. Okay. Also, what else are you getting protection from besides pathogens and dirt? UV radiation, that's a big one. Okay, that was one of the functions. We have 2 more to do. Noah? Regulates water loss. Noah, is your skin waterproof? Yes. Have you ever gone swimming before? Did you come out of the pool with gallons and gallons of water in your tissues? No, because your skin is waterproof. And then the third one, Jackie, can you tell me what it was? Vitamin D synthesis. Now, I talked a lot about this one. That's why we didn't finish. I want to go over this again with you guys. Jackie, how would you describe the skin color of people who can trace their ancestry to really close to the equator? Dark skin, right? Let's go through this. Cause and effect. Why do they have dark skin? Why was dark skin a preferential trait around the equator? Because they were so close to the sun. How would you describe dark skin's, what's the word I'm looking for? Efficacy, its effectiveness to intense sunlight and UV radiation. Is it a good defense or is it a poor defense to UV radiation? It's a good defense. Okay, that is good. It is a good defense. This is why Africa mostly has humans with darker skin. South America has humans mostly with darker skin. Areas of Asia close to the equator, guess what? Darker skin. So, Jackie, you're right about darker skin being great versus sunburns and skin cancer. But how well does it do in synthesizing vitamin D? It takes a lot of sunlight. Remember I told you guys I had a coworker of mine who was a black man. He had a vitamin D deficiency because he just wasn't getting enough sunlight in a day. If you have dark skin, the darker your skin is, the more sun exposure you need on a daily basis to get the vitamin D that you require. So, Jackie, let's flip the script here. Do you typically find lighter skin toned cultures close to the equator or further from the equator? Okay. How would you describe the light intensity in areas that are away from the equator, like Europe and Canada and northern Russia? How would you describe the light intensity in those areas? It's not as bad. I'm sure some of you have been up north before in the wintertime. You don't see the sun a whole lot. It's overcast quite a bit. You definitely have days where there's not a cloud in the sky. But I would venture to say that you have more days where it is just overcast. And the further north you go, I'm talking England, Ireland, France, Germany, all those European countries, it's kind of gloomy for 6 months out of the year. Now, Jackie, let's say that you are living in Germany. In one 24-hour day, the sun is actually out for less than an hour, like out of the clouds. For typical German natives, for example, or French or whatever, do you think that is enough time for them to get the vitamin D that they need? Yes, it is, because they have lighter skin. What if I took somebody from Africa and then I put them in Germany or France during the winter? Would they be able to get enough vitamin D on a daily basis? No, probably not, because they need hours of sun exposure. What if there aren't hours of sun exposure in a day? So they're not going to get enough. So the bottom line here is, guys, vitamin D is great for getting the calcium that you get in your diet into your bones. It makes your bones strong. But you have to make sure that you get enough vitamin D in a day. If you have light skin, if you are of European descent, a lot of you are European Americans. I'm European American. I'm Norwegian American. That's really Northern Europe. I just need probably less than an hour and I'm good. But if you are Hispanic or African or Southeast Asian, your skin is probably a little bit darker and you need a little bit more. And the darker your skin is, the more time in the sun you need to get your vitamin D. Now, we all have busy lives, school, work, family. It's hard to just go out in the sun all the time. Go to CVS and get a pill. They have supplements, get a little bottle, vitamin D, and you're good. Okay, so I'm going to pause the video so my class can go over the final two. So you guys haven't gotten those yet. Let's get those now, and then we'll get into the main event for today. The fourth function of your skin is to gather sensory information. This weird, strange looking person is a visualization of what our bodies would look like if the size of our bodies was reflective of the nerve concentrations in those body parts. So just by looking at this thing, this is called the Humunculus. Where in our body do we have the most nerves? Your hands. Then what's the second most? Your face. This is why we feel with our hands. If you're in the dark, you're like this. You're sticking your hands out first. Your hands are very sensitive, and your face is the second on the sensitivity list. This is why we kiss with our lips. You don't say, "Oh, honey, let's make out." Okay, let's make out. And you rub shoulders with each other. And there's not a lot of feeling in there. Your hands and your face are where there's a lot more sensory information, sensory input. You have a lot of sensory receptors that are in your hands, and they all lead in your face. They all lead to your nervous system. Now you feel throughout your entire integumentary system. If somebody pricked you in the arm with the needle for like a vaccine, you're going to feel it. If you sat on a thumbtack, you're going to feel it. When you step on a Lego, you're going to feel it. But you just feel things more sensitively on your hands and your face. That's where you have the most nerves. Again, this figure, this person, is called the Humunculus. These receptors specialize in sensing. What do you call those little bumps that are on every place in our society for blind people? Braille. If you guys go to the bathroom at the mall or at a Bucks game or a Lightning game or anywhere, they legally have to have on the sign little Braille message, restroom, water fountain, elevator. They all have that. And they feel it, their fingers, they're like this. They just feel it. We have very sensitive nerves in our fingers, in our hands. Your receptors are basically sensitive to touch, pressure, pain, and temperature. They're very sensitive to those stimuli. And as you can tell by Mr. Humunculus, you have a lot of nerve endings in your hands. Okay, so we have protection, water regulation, vitamin D synthesis, gathering sensory information. There's one more. Temperature regulation. Now, there has been another brain fart mental block word on this slide. I think I overcame it with 5th period. I hope they got it. I'm going to try to have you guys get it too. This is my 2nd period and my 8th period. We're just like, duh. So I want to find out what the holdup is and hopefully have you guys understand it. And I'll fix it with those periods later as well. What does your skin do when you're overheated? Easy. Easy. You sweat. What does your skin do when you're cold? You don't shiver. Shivering is your muscles. She says goosebumps. Goosebumps raises your hair. Now, we don't have a lot of body hair, but that honestly, that is the defense and response. There's something else. The term is called vasodilation. When you hear vaso, so far, what should you think of? A vase, what does that have to do with human anatomy and physiology? Blood. Vasodilation. Does vasodilation mean your blood vessels are widening or your blood vessels are tightening? Widening. You guys are mammals. You are warm-blooded. Your blood is 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. If I had an area of my body that was cold, do I want warm blood to go to it or away from it? To it. So how can I get more blood to that cold area? Do I increase the blood flow or decrease the blood flow? You increase it. So how can you increase blood flow? Do you make your blood vessels wider with a smaller or a bigger diameter, or smaller with a smaller diameter? Wider. So vaso means blood flow. Dilation means wider. Your blood vessels will dilate. If you're hot, you all got that. That's easy. You sweat. But when you're cold, you have vasodilation to increase blood flow to those cold areas. Put in parentheses after dilation, dermal blood vessels, put vasodilation, V-A-S-O dilation, one word. Dilation is already on the screen, V-A-S-O dilation. It means blood vessels getting wider to improve blood flow. All right, now, Isabella, you guys don't need to write about it. She talked about goosebumps. I want you guys to look at that image down here. We're humans. We don't have a whole lot of hair anymore. You have a lot of hair in your head. You have hair in your armpits, pubic region. But as far as body hair, except for Uncle Fred, we all don't have a whole lot of body hair. But this muscle is called Erector pili muscle. What it does is when it contracts, it causes your hair to stand up. You have that little goosebump. Now imagine animals that are coated in hair. This helps them stay warmer under those really cold conditions. When you shiver, you don't need to write this down, because we're going to move on. When you shiver, that's not your skin. That's your muscles. Your muscles are trying to generate heat. As far as goosebumps, that is trying to trap heat. And then you have the constriction of dermal blood vessels, which is due to cold temperatures. You get things like that. What's that called? That's called frostbite. Is that, now listen to your Latin here. Listen to the Latin. Is that hyperthermia or hypothermia? Hypothermia means not enough heat. And then what, and let's say this person's way too hot. What's that called? Hyperthermia. You really have to pay attention to those prefixes because they can tell you the meaning of the word. Hypo means low, hyper means high. Okay, let's get out of here. And I'm going to pass out a sheet of guided notes to you. I think you guys are really enjoy the next several days because we're going to do diseases, both chronic conditions and infections. We're going to do burns and we're going to do cancer. Cold, you got some goosebumps? The proper term for goosebumps is horoplasia or horoplasia. Got some horoplasia going on? Okay, these are yours. This is just guided notes to help organize your information. This is for you and you alone. This is not need to be turned in. If you need a hole punch it, the hole puncher is over there. You get on your way out. This PowerPoint is on Canvas. Yes. Well, gangrene is just rotting tissue. Frostbite's frozen to death. All right, let's get out of here. Let's go here. Let's go to the beginning. Yeah, Sam. So what? Just leave it there, and I'll be there for next period. Okay. Hold on. All right, I think we're recording. All right, now we are doing Integumentary System Part 2. This is going to be multiple lessons. So on YouTube, it's going to be Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, and so on. Skin disorders. Sure, all of you know someone that has a skin disorder, or maybe it's yourself. It happens. I had a student 2 years ago who had psoriasis, and I had her as a freshman. I have her as a junior now, and it looks like she's really gotten it under control. Sometimes you have your high points and your low points when it comes to managing such things. So some skin disorders where you have chronic disorders. Chronic means they're repeatedly happening over long periods of time. Like psoriasis can be a chronic condition. But these disorders are generally things that are not contagious. There are a few, and I'll tell you a few, but mostly these are things that are just exclusive to you. They're not, you didn't get infected by something. They're just part of who you are. The next one is going to be infectious disorders. These are going to be conditions that you contract from pathogens. Can you tell me the 4 pathogens again in any order? Bacteria, viruses, fungi, parasites. Well done. Burns. We'll eventually talk about burns. How many degrees of burn are there? 6. Yeah. So you're going to see some graphic stuff on these next few days. This is what you signed up for. And then we have skin cancers. Basal cell carcinoma, squamous cell carcinoma, melanoma. We'll talk about those. I'm going to teach you the A, B, C, D, E's of identifying skin cancer. You guys live in Florida, the Sunshine State. It's very important. See these 2 moles I have on me? I'm going to the dermatologist on Monday just to make sure those are okay. That he might say, oh, they're fine. I'll feel better. He says, maybe we should cut those off. Okay, whatever. Cut them off. So you have to stay on top of that kind of stuff. And you guys are young and you're pretty healthy, but things you do now can come back to screw you later. As I told you, I know someone that is in her 60s now, 60s. When she was in high school, she skipped a lot and would go to the pool and would douse herself in baby oil, which is like wearing a magnifying glass. And now, scars everywhere from all the little things that had been cut from her body, for all the little growths and cancers and moles and everything. So it does come back to get you. So take care of yourself now. Okay. Let's go to chronic skin disorders. Let's talk about hives. Urticaria. Hives are typically identified as red welts on the skin surface. They can be triggered by various things like allergens. Allergens are things that cause allergies. They can also be caused by temperature changes. They can be caused by stress. Does anyone in here have allergies? What do you have, Helen? Allergic to what? Bees, wasps, and hornets. Having that you go into anaphylaxis. Cats. The cat dander, hair. I have a student in my second period who's allergic to dogs. Guess what? His family has dogs. So, okay, here's the hierarchy. Here's the pecking order. Mom and dad, sister, dogs, him. He's below the dogs. I don't think I'm allergic to anything, but we have this one blanket in my house where when I lay on it or lay with it on the couch, it's just, I feel like I'm covered in fleas. Just get rid of this blanket. Well, an allergic reaction is a response to an allergen. An allergen is something that you are allergic to. It is varying for different people. For Halen, it's hornet and bee venom. Other people can be peanuts. You know, on some airplane carriers and schools and businesses, you cannot have peanuts or peanut butter in the building. in elementary schools, there's like big signs that on the cafeteria says, no peanut butter, no peanuts. Because if that one kid gets anywhere close to peanuts, the oil, the actual peanut itself touches him, goes into anaphylaxis. And I'll tell you guys what anaphylaxis is in a moment. I've had students today allergic to pollen, milk, grass, animal hair, weird stuff. Motrin. I don't think I'm allergic to anything except that dang blanket. But anyway, here's what anaphylactic shock is. You ready? Let's say that I was allergic to dog hair. If I rub dog hair on my skin is going to kind of swell up as a reaction. But what if I got it in me? What if I got the dog hair in my bloodstream? I'm going to have a body-wide allergic reaction. This is called anaphylaxis, where your tissues swell up, and this can actually sometimes cause vasoconstriction. Your tissues are swelling up so much that it kind of squeezes your blood vessels. And so, Halen, let's say that we were outside for class one day and a bee stung you. What do you need? You need your EpiPen. Epi stands for epinephrine, which is adrenaline. You get that adrenaline, and what it does is it makes your heart beat faster, which causes blood to pump harder, which opens up your blood vessels so you don't run the risk of like not having circulation. Another thing is that the swelling is caused by a chemical called histamine. Histamine triggers your inflammatory reaction, your inflammatory response. It causes things to swell up. What's the opposite of a histamine? I know you've heard this word. Antihistamine. And what common product can you get at the store that has antihistamine in it? Benadryl. So if you have an allergic reaction, you're going to experience the inflammatory response. A common sign of the inflammatory response is swelling. Swelling is caused by a chemical called histamine. Antihistamines undo that. It lowers and reduces your swelling. When I was in college, my college roommate worked at a restaurant, and it was one Saturday night. He just got off his shift. He comes back home, and one of the chefs in the back made him this big old steak dinner for, his meal. And apparently the chef put some spices on there that my roommate Matt was allergic to, and he ate his steak, and we just watched him get redder and redder and swollen and more swollen. And we're like, dude, I think you're having an allergic reaction to something on that steak. And he was freaking out. So we hauled butt to Publix, bought some Benadryl, and we basically put a straw in it and made him drink it out of the straw. And he eventually got better. But it happens pretty quick, because when you get it in your body, it's like a whole body-wide allergic reaction. Hives can also be caused by stress. Some people, when they're really freaked out or wigged out, they just start scratching all the time. That's hives. They're getting really stressed out. Or extreme temperature changes. Really hot, really cold, really hot, really cold. There's a really old movie. I should not say really old for you. It's called Dr. Dolittle. And there's a woman in the movie that keeps eating shellfish. It's like, man, do you have a death wish? She goes, what? I took it out of the shell. Her whole face was just puffed. She was like, here's her normal look. Here's when after she ate the shellfish. Totally swollen. Next is eczema. Eczema is a chronic skin disorder, which means it happens progressively, a lot over time, that involves scaly and itchy rashes. Common signs are dry, flaky, blistering skin that appears red and inflamed. Remember, red is an inflammation sign or symptom. You just want to keep itching and itching and itching, and it has a burning, which makes you want to itch even more. Then it burns more, and you want to itch it more. Anyone ever had eczema before? Not very enjoyable, is it? It's like, I just got to stop itching, but it hurts. It can be triggered by allergic reactions, like what we just talked about. Chemicals, fabrics, heat, and dryness. Now, I think it's worth saying, I know this, we're not in the immune system yet, so I'm not going to get really deep into it. But we talk about allergies. We all know someone that's allergic to something. A few of you just said you're allergic to different things. Allergies are basically your immune system thinking that something in the world that is not dangerous is dangerous and must be responded to. So you are allergic to what? Okay, your body thinks that bee and wasp hornet venom is like a pathogen. If I got stung by a bee, I'm gonna be like, ow, that hurt. I'm not gonna swell up like you will. Your immune system thinks that it's like a virus or something. And so you're gonna have the inflammatory response as a reaction to it. Other people might get pollen up their nose and they get all snotty and leaky and swollen and red. Their body thinks that pollen is like some sort of infection, and it isn't. Your immune system's a little confused. All right, dandruff. Dandruff is caused by yeast. What type of organism is yeast? Don't say bread. This is not the kind of yeast you want to make bread with. What is yeast? It's a fungus. That's right. This is a fungi. This is white, flaky, inflammatory skin condition. It's often found on the scalp, and it can be treated with products like Head and Shoulders. The reason why Head and Shoulders works is because it has an additive called zinc. I'm going to tell you guys a major revelation I had when I was in college. I didn't have dandruff. I had a different fungus. I'm not ashamed to admit it. So I'm sure some of you have had it. So you guys have likely seen on MTV before that they had spring break in Cancun, spring break in Fort Lauderdale, spring break in LA, San Diego, Tijuana, all these places. Where did Mr. Thorson go for his spring break in college? I went to my dad's house to re-roof a barn. Fun stuff, right? He's like, hey Kurt, I need you to come up during spring break and help me re-roof our barn. Okay, party animal, spring break, first year in college, let's do it. Well, when I went back to school after spring break, I went to my anatomy class, and my professor waved me over. He's like, Kurt, come here. I'm like, yeah? He says, let me see your arm there. It's okay, showing my arm, rolled up my sleeve. He says, were you out in the sun this week? I said, yeah. You have a fungus on your skin. Like, a what? Yeah, this right here. Let me share it with people at home so they can see this. This is a fungus. And I was like, it's what? It's like, yeah, you were outside a lot. I said, yeah, I was re-roofing a barn all day, all week. So you got this fungus. Here's how you treat it. Take a shower, and every time you do, just take a handful of don't take too much, but take some Head and Shoulders and just put it on the areas where you have these white spots, and keep doing that for a few minutes every shower, and eventually it'll die. And I asked, why? What's in it? It has zinc. The zinc inside Head and Shoulders kills fungus. It kills the yeast and dandruff, and it kills this fungus that's on your skin when you're out in the sun too long. Like, wow, okay, well, live and learn. I had no idea that was a fungus, but I have a student second period who had that, and he did what I told him, and it went away. So the more you know. Okay, we'll do one more for today. Psoriasis. Psoriasis is represented by flaky silver white patches called scales. This is the overproduction of skin, overproduction of your epidermis. You're making way too much epidermis, way too much. Do you remember how long I told you it takes for your epidermis to go from the stratum basal to the stratum corneum, from the bottom of your epidermis to the top? A month. For people with psoriasis, you know how long it takes? 1 week. They make a lot of skin and they make it way too fast. So they get these things called plaques, areas of dry, scaly skin. And there's a lot of treatments for it. There's not a cure for psoriasis. Know the difference between a treatment and a cure. Like there's not a cure for a broken leg. There is treatment for a broken leg. There's not a cure for psoriasis, but there's plenty of treatments for it. The body's producing way too much epidermis, way too much. Normally, you regenerate your entire epidermis in a month. For people with psoriasis, it's a week. So they're making a lot. It's just genetic. You cannot catch it if you rub your arm on their arm. You cannot catch it if you have sex with them or kiss them. It's just them. The only way you can pass it on is from parent to child. Okay, and we will stop here for today. We'll continue with this next class and